Hi guys, my name is Serene and welcome to the Koger Center for the Arts. The University of South Carolina Orchestra spends time in this room, rehearsing and perfecting every note before moving on to the auditorium for their performance.
I'm the conductor of the USC Symphony Orchestra, but I also teach the graduate conducting majors, orchestral conducting majors, so master's and doctoral students. So my job entails preparing the orchestra for its 6 or 7 concerts a year and all that goes into that, and then working with my graduate students who are looking to have careers as professional conductors. I'm a conductor, I'm a teacher, so teaching becomes a really important thing. And all conductors are teachers. Even somebody conducting the Berlin Philharmonic is, to a certain extent, teaching. They're also, like me, coaching. And by coaching, I mean, if you're the coach of a soccer team, not only are you giving your players information about how to play soccer better, but you're also, one of your big jobs becomes facilitating teamwork, facilitating 11 players doing something together towards a common cause. And that's very much a big part of what all of us do as conductors. We are trying to facilitate 90 to 100 people working together to come up with something that's cohesive and beautiful, and that matches and brings together different ideas and different opinions. And that actually, the people part of it is a really big part of what we do. I have an undergraduate degree in music performance. I was a trumpet player, so I majored in orchestral performance as a trumpet player. I played trumpet professionally, and then I went back to school and did a master's and a doctorate in conducting. And so somebody particularly that wants to conduct at the university level needs a terminal degree, a doctorate in conducting, to be able to do it. There's a lot of professional conductors that don't have a doctorate because it's not necessarily a degree that you have to conduct the Berlin Philharmonic. But to teach at a university, having that makes a big difference. There are a lot of similarities and some differences for sure. For sure, the pedigree that's required to teach at a university is different. The credentialing that you need. It's not out of the question that somebody would have a position like mine without a doctorate, but it's more uncommon particularly than it used to be. Whereas I can't think of a major music director of a major orchestra that has a doctorate off the top of my head. They oftentimes got themselves into the professional world and then just sort of worked their way up from there. So that's one of the differences. The actual work that I do on the stage with the orchestra in rehearsal and in performance is identical. What I do outside of that is a little bit different. The music director of the South Carolina Philharmonic, let's say, is coming in and doing the rehearsals, doing the concert, meeting with donors. I'm doing all of those things, but I'm also essentially the chief executive officer of the orchestra. I make sure that all of the things that the librarian, the personnel manager, the concertmaster, all things that they're doing, all of the things that are going to happen on stage, backstage, everything from the pre-show announcement to how the live stream is going to go. I have my hand in all of those things. I'm also the chief financial officer of the orchestra, so I'm running the finances of the orchestra. So in an academic setting, I'm the music director of the orchestra, but I'm also doing a lot of the other things that definitely in a professional setting there would be full or part-time employees doing in addition. That may be a little bit too much now, but that's the end.
I feel free. I feel free. I think this sounds cliche and all these movies like you see, I know this movie Elliot, and when they ask him why do you want to be a ballet dancer, and he's like freedom, electricity, and I feel exactly like that. I'm never nervous when I'm going to conduct, which I'm nervous when I play the violin. Now a little bit less, but like when I conduct, I feel like fish in the sea, in water, yeah. My mom obliged me to be a musician. I have to say, when I was a teenager, I was the national team of swimming of my country. And I was very into swimming, but I was doing not very well at school. So my mom asked me, okay, you need to choose violin or swimming. And I say swimming, and she said no, violin. So that's how I became a violin player. Of course, with time, I always loved music, symphonic music. And with time, I just became professional, and I take it very serious in a professional way. Not meaning that I don't love what I do, but there is the misconception that the musicians or the artists in general, we just do it because we love it. No, we have things that happen to normal people too. We have bills to pay, we have people to care of, and etc. So I take it seriously, and that's why I always try to do my really best. I would say that we have kind of 2 or 3 main aspects of our work. First of all is the music. We care about the music. We program the season. We choose the music depending on the level of the orchestra that we are conducting. If we are a guest conductor, sometimes they give us the repertoire, sometimes we choose the repertoire. Then we have management kind of work. We need to manage people, how many musicians, which kind of instruments, hire people, etc. And then also this part of management is fund crowding and speaking with patrons, and etc. So I think the orchestra conductor is a more integral job. It's not just about music, but also a lot of human relations, how you can relate with other people. We all love playing music. Me as an orchestra musician, I just told you I love playing the violin inside the orchestra. And we mostly, all of us, have that feeling. So in that sense, it's easy. What I tell you is that we need to bring, as a conductor, we need to bring them together into playing the way how we see the music, or how we feel and listen the music. So I think we need to be very charismatic, always very polite, and be clear with our intentions, with our language, and these kind of things. Yes. Though the conductor will always have this kind of teaching role, though with the professional is much less, because they are already professionals, of course. But with students, sometimes you need to guide them, teach them how to play something in the style, or show them what does gesture means. And so in that sense is different, because obviously they have less experience than a professional group. So they are at school trying to gain all this experience, and it's very important for them that the conductor or the teachers, the coach, can tell them what a gesture means, or why is this place faster, or why this slower, or why the conductor beats something like this or something like that. So if I would like to that something sounds short, I will conduct like short, right? Like very sharp, let's say. If I want something that is more legato, more singing, I will move like kind like waves. Yeah. If I want that something is strong and harsh, I would close my fist. I don't know. If I want something more ethereal, I would just really hear up. And these are kind of basic. But my professor will be better on that. In the orchestra, like I was telling you before, the conductor has his role, the musical role, the management role, but of course he cannot do everything. So, for example, in our orchestra here at USC, U of SC, we have a librarian and I'm the personal manager. So my job is basically setting everything and getting everything ready prior to the rehearsal. So when our conductor and our musicians come, they feel that they are in a professional setting, that we give them the best experience possible. For example, I set the stage or I set the rehearsal room. If somebody wants an extra stand or an extra chair, I would help them with that. And just that they don't have to care about anything that is not music. And that's very important for the students, so they can just be 100% into the music. So that's my job as a personal manager. Yeah. There's always someone doing that in the orchestra. It's the like staff or the inspector. But we have in the professional orchestras there is someone doing that job, which I want to repeat is so important because the musician has to arrive and just care about music, not I don't have enough space to play or this is too loud to my ears, or no, just 100% about music.
I'm a concertmeister in that orchestra. Concertmeister means first chair and the first violin in the orchestra, and is like a second conductor. I like to say the concertmeister is a ambassador between conductor and the orchestra. You need to understand the ideas of conductor about the music, and you can transmit these ideas with bowings or with body language and the strings especially, and after the orchestra. And there are other things to do as a concertmeister. For example, in the small ensembles, there are no conductor and the first violinist and the concertmeister lead the whole orchestra. And there are several examples to big orchestras playing without a conductor and only a concertmeister lead the whole orchestra with this body language and bowings. You need to do bowings, go up, down, and down bow. It's like that. And the phrasings. You need to show that phrasings with these bowings. You need to work with the other principal string players and make sure that every bowings are great, are well. Yeah, now if the bowings are different, and then the sound of the orchestra is changed more unbalanced. And if the bowings are correct, the strings especially can achieve a more balanced sound. And yeah, it's like that. Because if the bowings are well written, then in the rehearsal, conductor can use time more efficiently, and the time management is the big deal in the rehearsals because we have limited time. I'm the librarian of the USC Symphony Orchestra, so I prepared all the music for all 100 players, or sometimes score too, and I make sure everything correct, and then I spread out the music, and then collect that, and then maintain the library, and sometimes I edit the catalog also. Yeah, because we buy some parts from the publisher. Sometimes we rent, because the publisher just allowed to rent some score and parts. So we rent that, and then return to the publisher. But sometimes we buy some part from publisher, and then we collect that, and then make the catalog, edit the catalog to the catalog, and then maintain all the music in our library, and then we can use it later. Yeah, we have to rent from the publisher just a day once. Rent that, and then we have a contract for the parts and music, and we rent from the several time, and then perform, and then return to the publisher. Yeah.
So to compose a piece of music takes a lot of time. You have to figure out every note, every rhythm, every harmony, and what the flute plays, and what the oboe plays, and what the trumpet's playing, and what the piano's playing, and so on. You work it all out, and then you notate it all in this score, and then you hand it over to the musicians, and then they're performing it on stage, and you're sitting in the audience all there alone. You made the piece, you wrote it, you sculpted all those notes, and then all of a sudden you have 100 people working together to try to perform it together with empathy and interaction. And then I'm just sitting in the audience listening. It's a wonderful feeling. I feel very blessed, very grateful to the musicians, very grateful to the conductor, very grateful to the orchestra. I'm also very appreciative of each violin, the flutes, the oboe, the instruments, the drum, the actual triangle, or whatever the instruments are. Somebody made those, somebody crafted them, and people learning exactly how to play them. And let's say the strings on a violin, very precise strings that were tuned exactly. And so one is very appreciative of all that goes into what hopefully then is just a performance. You can just hear the piece as if it was played, but there's a lot that goes into that. So to be a composer writing for, let's say, orchestra, you need to understand how the flute works, how the oboe works, how the clarinet works, bassoon, trumpet, the percussion, piano, strings. It's impossible to, at least for me, to just know one instrument and then try to write for all of them. So for instance, some instruments you just blow through it with air, like a flute. Other instruments have a double reed. You have to get the two reeds working together. Other instruments have a single reed. The strings are tuned in a certain kind of interval. What are those intervals? You need to know all of this before you start writing, so that when you're writing music for players, it fits their instrument, that it's comfortable to play, that it's fun to play, that it's a note for violin that's really for violin. It was conceived of a violin note, or it was conceived of as a trumpet note, or conceived of as a French horn note. In order to do that, you have to understand those instruments. Since I was about 4, I've been obsessed with music, and now I'm 57. So it's like 53 years, right? Is that right? Yeah, 53 years I've been composing music. So when you do it every day, hours and hours and hours, week after week, month, year, decade after decade after decade, you get a little better at it, hopefully. Hopefully. And so, as you develop your skills as a composer, you end up really knowing what it is you want to say and how it is you want to say it. And you don't really feel that you need to have some flute player come in and play you bar 62 and so you can check it. You're sort of a little bit more advanced than that after all those decades of work. But when I first started out, when I was, let's say, in 3rd grade or 4th grade or 6th grade, I really wanted a flute player to come play it for me. Can I hear this? How does it sound on your instrument? And can you play that note? So there's different times of life where you need different things to learn how to be a composer. There's all kinds of music. You can have music that's just hanging in the air, like chords, just oscillating like this, without rhythm in a way. Timeless, like a meditation. And then there's music that's maybe really jazzy, you know, something like that. Or then you could have music that's like fanfare, like, or you could have 1,000 other kinds of music. So when one thinks about where you're going to take this music, where's it going to go, it depends really what kind of thing it was to begin with. Some music wants to organically unravel this way. Other music wants to fade out that way. Other music wants to kind of go in waves and get bigger or smaller, or whatever it might be. So I don't think there's one answer like, okay, I have some material and it will always, you know, unravel that way. I think it depends very precisely on what the material is in the context of that particular sonic adventure or the sonic story that you're telling. When I was a little girl, I used to lie underneath the piano. And my mom was a kindergarten teacher. She taught for 30 years, and she supported our family. And we had this rickety old piano, and she was an amateur pianist. She would come home from teaching kindergarten all day and start to play. And I used to lie underneath it and listen to the sounds all swirl around my head. And I got so interested in sound and what could I make with instruments or with my own voice. I started to make up little pieces on the piano. And then when I was in school, we had a good band program and an orchestra program and a music program. So I started to take piano lessons and voice lessons, and I took up the trumpet. And I played trumpet all the way through college, actually, and then I was also composing. So, you know, I'm sure that there's a lot of young people who are in school right now that are like thinking about going into music, and I think it's really fun to really try to pursue that and follow your dreams if you're attracted to music.
I'm tasked with working with the School of Music to identify funding priorities, which are largely scholarships and assistantships, things that support students in their learning, and as well as find resources to help fund the various programs as well. We have several different series that we have need to be funded as well. Similarly, for the Koger Center, it is also my role to identify potential donors to support the goings-on here at the center. I've worked in fundraising for nearly 30 years. I studied public relations as an undergrad. I have a master's in nonprofit management. I started out as a department secretary for the fundraising office at a small nonprofit, and then over the course of my career just became involved with higher education and have worked in higher ed now for 12 years. Definitely have to be an efficient communicator in terms of making a strong case for support. Why would a donor want to make a contribution to either the School of Music or the Koger Center? So it's imperative to find those stories and tell them to prospective donors so that it tugs at their heartstrings, but also, you know, makes sense. As fundraising is all about relationships, because you're going to donate to someone or an entity that you trust and value and knows that, and you know that will use your donation as you intend.
As a front of house manager, I deal with everything from the stage to the street, which is patrons, ticketing, programs, making sure that everything that happens before a performance comes off smoothly. We have security working here, nurses, full-time people. If you don't notice us, then we've done our job right. My major was religion and political science, so I was praying for a job in government. Nothing that I did with my major has anything to do with what I do now, which I think is common for a lot of people, which is why I tell students to get all the experience with internships and apprenticeships that they possibly can. I was the event coordinator at the President's House at the university, and then the job opened down here and I transferred down, and it's been a terrific ride ever since. I think more than anything, you have to have a love of the arts. And I don't know if you really understand your love of the arts until you see the variety that's here, the diversity in what we do. We have jazz, we have theater, we have ballet, the symphony. So there's a chance to have all kinds of different people be introduced to a new way of perhaps seeing life or understanding themselves better. So I think you have to have an openness and also the ability to understand that sometimes things may not go to plan, so you have to shift as quickly as possible and in a seamless fashion.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed learning about all the great careers behind the scenes.